So you've heard of Soundgarden, you know about Chris Cornell, but do you know the prodigy who helped start it all and then vanished? In another video I made, I delved into Hiro Yamamoto, Soundgarden's founding bassist who walked away from fame. But was it just the music business, or was there something deeper under the surface? This is an origin story about race, masculinity, and the fight to belong. It was in November 2022, at the age of 61, that Hiro Yamamoto was inducted into the Asian Hall of Fame. Upon receiving the honor, he was reflecting, quote, "I don't know if it's coincidental, but I credit the Asian Hall of Fame with really getting me to embrace what it means to be an Asian American artist. This recognition highlights a journey of self-acceptance that may not have always been so straightforward." In his earlier years, Yamamoto might have viewed such an honor dubiously, resenting being singled out for his race. Okay, I admit, I'm projecting here. When I made my previous video on Yamamoto, I was overwhelmed with emotion. The interviews, his mannerism,
for the people.
Hiro reminded me so much of my friend Dave. Hiro, his childhood unfolded in Park Forest, Illinois, a planned post-war suburb south of Chicago. It was the kind of place designed to offer a fresh start to families like his. Middle class, quiet, safe. But for a first-generation Japanese-American boy, that didn't mean it was welcoming. I say this because I've seen it before. My friend Dave grew up a generation later outside of Poughkeepsie in upstate New York, under similar circumstances. Dave was my only real music friend. He never agreed to be in a band with me, but I did direct a couple of his music videos, including the one you're watching here. He supported me at my gigs, played different instruments, helped me record, a mix of creative competition, high drama, and sibling rivalry. I always secretly hoped that Dave would become the McCartney to my Lennon, but that never happened. Dave and I followed eerily similar paths. Our firstborns arrived less than a week apart, and 3 months later, at the height of the pandemic, Dave died. Completely unexpectedly. I saw him the previous night on a Zoom call, a hangout with friends. The following morning, he went on a jog and just dropped. Now, watching Hiro speak brought me to tears. He reminded me so much of Dave.
And I've always kind of had that ethos.
This could have been what Dave might have become if he got a chance to live the second half of his life. They looked the same mannerism, that great hair I was so jealous of. So yes, I'm projecting here, because I know a lot about Dave's backstory. He was first-generation immigrant from Taiwan, but his accent? More American than American. John Wayne. It was affected, deliberate. It had a low timbre. I'm pretty sure that was acquired. An extra layer of masculinity. An extra shield of protection. Dave had a complicated relationship with his parents. And by complicated, I mean he often told me, "I hate their guts. My mom's a bitch." His parents pushed him towards the violin. Classical music, and Western classical at that, was acceptable because it was respectable. Academics were everything. You kept your head down, you didn't make waves. There was no pride in your heritage, only caution. Don't get noticed, don't threaten the white man. It was oppressive for a young person, especially for a young man, born in a country called the land of the free, yet constantly feeling he wasn't equal. There was no space for aggression, no space for raw emotion. Now, as bad as Dave had it, and he wore those scars proud, I imagine it was even worse for Hiro. His parents weren't just immigrants, they were survivors, children of the Japanese internment camps. Now, as a Jewish person, I've heard so many testimonials from children of Holocaust survivors. The psychological impact on a second generation of survivors cannot be overstated. The level of trauma that they're experiencing is profound. The word PTSD doesn't do it justice. We're talking emotional outbursts, gut-wrenching nightmares, a memory so painful it is half buried in the ground, but rears its ugly head like a decomposing corpse ever so often. This trauma leads to suffocating protectiveness of your children, and a desperate need to make their kids safe, or try to make their kids safe. It's futile. In trying to protect them, they hurt them instead. So in that stifling environment, confusing, Hiro had his viola that he clung to. My friend Dave had his violin. Remember, as long as it's classical, it was acceptable. Hiro's instrument was a viola, and he was damn good at it. But when you grow up in a house where achievement matters more than self-expression, music becomes something else entirely. It's not a passion anymore, it becomes a duty. And that's where rebellion starts. Teenage years. Testosterone starting to percolate. For Dave, he moved to the guitar. He obsessed over George Harrison, memorizing every Beatles solo, by ear, spending hours. He gravitated to Radiohead because the intricacy of their composition wasn't that far removed from the classical composers he grew up on. It was rebellion, but it wasn't quite the Sex Pistols. And this is where I start to wonder about Hiro. Tiger parents can't keep you in the nest forever. Not in America. You start going to school. You start meeting other kids. You start asking questions. Why am I being seen differently? Why can't I fit in? Why am I getting bullied? You start questioning your parents, keep your head down and get good grades, ethos and mentality. Because you do keep your head down, you do get the good grades, and you still get beat up in the locker room. You start noticing the kids around you. Some white kids don't fit in either, but their rebellion is loud. Rock music, mohawks, skateboards. Fuck you, world. The kind of fuck you only people who already own the world can afford to say. But if your parents have tiger claws, your rebellion has to be quieter. You don't pick up a Stratocaster, but maybe you pick up a banjo. You won't rock out to Sabbath, but maybe you'll swap Mozart for bluegrass. A small act of defiance. I am American too. Now keep in mind, we're talking, fairly mild rebellion, but to him, with the kinds of parents and environment he was in, it seemed monumental, right? I'm quoting here from Everybody Loves Our Town by Mark Yarm. And this is from his friend Stuart Hellerman, talking about Hiro. He said, "In school his nickname was Bean because he was the brain of the school. He played viola and listened to bluegrass music, classical music, some jazz. His entire rock collection consisted of one Grateful Dead record and one ELP record." So, yeah, not exactly, Sex Pistols kind of rebellion. He was still the nerd, he was very intelligent, still very good at what he did. But that kind of turn towards bluegrass was his subtle form of rebellion. Eventually, his parents agreed to enroll him in an experimental, no-grades curriculum. Hiro Yamamoto himself, from Everybody Loves Our Town, we went to this place called Rich Township High School, but we were in a program called ALPS, Alternative Learning Process School. At Alps, you kind of didn't have classrooms. You didn't really get grades. We played lots of frisbee. For Hiro, it opened a door he never knew existed. And he starts to gravitate towards the so-called wrong crowds, laughable in hindsight because they were good kids. There was nothing wrong about them. They were just kids with their own ideas. Kids who weren't on the doctor-lawyer path. Kids who valued self-expression over blending in. And I can picture that old immigrant mother shaking her head. Individuality over community? What has America wrought? There is wisdom in her words, but go try explaining that to an angry teenager. And this program also had Bruce Pavitt, the older, charismatic upperclassman with big ideas, who would eventually go on to form Sub Pop Records. And then, something Hiro never seen before. Another Asian guy like him. But this guy had long hair. This guy had a white girlfriend. And this guy played guitar and axe and rocked it. This is Kim Tae-il. One day, Hiro and Kim will form Soundgarden together. But right now, Hiro is just watching, absorbing, and realizing. This is possible. There's a world out there. Soon, Bruce Pavitt will be leaving for Seattle and college, like a prophet heading for uncharted lands. And Hiro is paying attention. Now were there any moments in your childhood that shaped the rest of your life? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and let me know. It really helps the channel, and I really appreciate your time. Until the next time, and the next part of Hiro's journey.